Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Norma Juarez, and I work in the Alumni Relations Office at UNC. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon for the Alumni Career Panel, Diverse Identities at Work. We are honored to be hosting such an amazing group of alumni professionals this afternoon, joining us from all over across the United States. Before we get started, I want to share a couple of housekeeping items with you. One, this event will be recorded and will be available on demand in the next couple days on the alumni website. I will be sharing that link in the chat section. I will also be sharing contact information from all of our panelists so that you can reach out to them if you have individual questions after the event and so that you can start building your network. And then once introductions are done, I will go off of screen and will return shortly after to provide a closing statement. Without further ado, please help me welcome our panelists. Panelists, can I please have you introduce yourselves, starting with your name, title, company, and UNC degree, and telling us a little bit about yourself. And Elise, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Elise Flores, and I am a workforce specialist for Arapahoe Douglas Workforce Center, and I'm a career coach for the Douglas County Youth Employment Program. So I graduated in 2015 with communication studies and a minor in sociology. And some fun things about me, I'm learning a different language. It's called Somoruk. That's the indigenous language of Guam. And I also play beach volleyball. So thank you for having me today.
Thank you, Elise. Kevion?
Hey everybody, Kevion Ellis. I graduated in 2018 with the International Affairs major, and I currently work at Education Minnesota as a lobbyist. It's the state of Minnesota's public teachers union, so I'm excited to work on those issues. And a little about me, I actually went to UNC on a whim, didn't know much about the school, but it was probably the best decision that I ever made. So glad to be here today.
Thank you, Kevion. Steph?
Aloha, everyone. My name is Steph Moyer, and I am the Community Initiatives and Training Coordinator for the Hawaii Public Health Institute. I'm a 2006 graduate from UNC with a degree in sport and exercise science and a minor in dance. I stayed in Colorado, did my master's of public health with the Colorado School of Public Health, and stayed there for 10 years before returning home to Hawaii. And I now currently live on the island of Kauai.
Thank you, Steph. Tim?
Hola a todos, mucho gusto. My name is Tim Hernandez. I am born and raised out of the north side of Denver, Colorado, but I went to the University of Northern Colorado, graduated in December of 2019. My pronouns are he, him, él, and I currently work, right now I'm the associate manager of the high school leadership program for the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute in Washington, D.C., and I'm also an English and emerging multilingual student teacher, and I'm a full-time teacher at North High School in Denver Public Schools as well.
Thank you, Tim. Flor?
Hello, everyone. My name is Flor Varela. I'm a Spanish teacher at Greeley Central High School. I graduated from UNC in 2013 with a Spanish education and a CLD bilingual bicultural endorsements. I also have a master's from UNC in teaching a foreign language. Something interesting about me, there's a lot of things. No, I'm just kidding. Right now, I am actually teaching a Mexican American Studies class. And so I'm really excited about this quarter for that class.
Thank you, Flor. Now I'm going to hand it over to Q, who will be our moderator this afternoon. Q?
Hello, my name is Q. My real name is Quinston Doherty, but that's way too hard. My parents were hippies in California, so they put Quincy Jones and Winston Churchill together and got Quinston. I don't know. So Q is a lot easier. So I graduated in 97 and 2000. I came from California, like I mentioned earlier. I'm the youngest of 7, interesting fact about me, and I'm the only one to graduate from college. So I'm a first gen and the only one in the family to graduate from college. So pretty proud to be a UNC Bear, and felt really comfortable there coming from California and having a place that just, engulfed me and took care of me and supported me on my journey. So yeah, and so I also did part of that engulfing, warming feeling. I was an RA, hall director, and then I actually went up to be a director of housing and dining at university for 10 years. And so now I've left university and worked as a managing partner for a financial firm. So that's where I'm at now. I'm excited to hear your stories because everybody's story is so different, and I'm just excited to hear how we all get here and how to support each other, and hear a different, and maybe something will click with somebody that will help them out and go from there. So I'll start with you, Flo. Talk to us a little bit about your internships and coursework you did at UNC that led you to where you're at in your current industry as a teacher.
Thank you. So I actually came in as a business major at UNC and quickly realized that that was not the career for me. Some of the places that really helped me through to get to my field was CHE, which is Center for Human Enrichment. They helped me through the whole process of going from a business major to undecided and guided me through the classes that I should be taking. That's how I ended up taking a Spanish course and fell in love with Spanish, but I wasn't sure I wanted to be a teacher. I always denied it my whole life that I was not going to be a teacher. And then the Hispanic Studies office actually told me that I should take a class or go observe in the district to see if I would like to be a teacher. And I said no. And they were like, yeah, you're going to go. And then later on, I liked it. I like the fact that I get to help the kids, but working at the Cesar Chavez Center, we also tutor each other a lot, and we helped each other a lot with homework. And I realized I really enjoyed helping others learn new concepts and teaching. So that's how I ended up in teaching.
That's awesome. What about you, Tim?
Yeah, so I'm a teacher too. I'm also a first generation student. So I will be very honest in like, I ended up in education in like the worst way possible. So I only studied English because I thought you could only study English, math, history, or science when you were in college. And I knew I wanted to become a teacher, but they didn't put me in my English education program. I walked into the office of Jerry Craver and said, hey, I want to be an English teacher. I found this on the website. Can you help me? When they gave me my PIN for the first time. So like such a non-traditional way. But since being a teacher, I'm not only involved deeply with education, I also do a lot of community organizing and a lot of specifically Latino political engagement. So I work for the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, and that was all made possible by a lot of the different leadership opportunities that I had at UNC. The job that I had that changed my life that I tell everybody was I was the first Latinx student body president of the University of Northern Colorado. So doing that was a really big way for me to break into, and have a lot of skills developed, right? And so I work now really heavily on youth political engagement with Latinx members of Congress, and I teach at a local high school at the same time because I love teaching kids, and I don't think I'll ever be able to step out of the classroom. So, UNC changed my life for the better. And I think that, the opportunities available at UNC to do something like student government, to do something like the McNair Scholars Program that was also a huge impact on me as well, was a giant, giant change in my life. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. Steph, what do we got?
So I actually came to UNC on a partial dance scholarship. So I came in as a dance major, and within my freshman year was told that they were getting rid of the dance major. So I kind of had to regroup and figure out what I wanted to do. And that's what led me into sport and exercise science. And through coursework and internships with physical therapy and at the Cancer Rehab Center, I kind of realized that I wanted to do something a little broader, not so direct service, maybe a little bit more with community. So actually following my time my coursework at UNC, I worked in the admissions office and was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do with the SCS degree, and met with a friend who at that time worked at the rec center, and she had her master's in public health. Never heard of public health, didn't really understand what it was, but that's what led me into public health and where I am now. As I mentioned, I did stay in Colorado and attended the Colorado School of Public Health, which was the tri-campus collaborative. So UNC was still an option to take coursework at, but definitely contribute my time at UNC to where I am now, and just always push interning and talking to others to really help you figure out your path and what you want to do after college.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Who do we have next? I think we have Kevion.
Yeah. So for me, it was a lot of things that impacted me. I would say just in general, I've always been passionate about international affairs and politics. So that led to me, studying international affairs, and then I minored in Africana studies and economics, and, just getting to work across those three departments, collaborating with my peers and faculty, really just showed me a lot of just kind of skills that I still use in the workplace today. And then, I had a lot of jobs around campus too. Like Tim, I was in student government. I also worked in the financial aid office for a while. And then, I worked in a catering program, the rec center. I was kind of all over the place, but, all of those jobs really made an impact on me and helped me to really just, understand how to be a young professional. And then I would say through the political science department, I got to intern at the state capitol. And that was probably the experience that really showed me that I wanted to continue working in state government. So really thankful for that opportunity and glad that it led the way for me getting to work in state government today.
That's awesome. Elise, what do we have?
All right, UNC, I love it. So I came to UNC actually from an all-girls leadership math camp, Las Chicas de Matemáticas. And I really, as a prospective student, I was really excited by the community and just the engagement of the professors. And I ended up doing communication studies based on my experience on campus. So I was involved in different cultural centers like the Marcus Garvey Cultural Center. And then I also was part of housing residential education. So it all started the first week of school before everyone else was there. It was the Lead On Leadership Camp for incoming freshmen. And so we had some upperclassmen who were the facilitators, and they were like your high five buddies. Literally, that's what they were called. And so I was able to connect with them and have like mentors on campus. And then I took advantage since freshman year for career services. So they provided a lot of good leadership skills for me and just self-discovery. So I felt very supported at UNC. And now I'm a career coach thanks to Quill Phillips. She was my career coach freshman year of UNC. So thank you, Quill.
Awesome. Nice shout out. So Tim, we're gonna start with you, but this is the question we have. So as a person of color, what skills have you used to navigate the world you work?
That's
kind of loaded, but hey, and you have 20 seconds. No, I'm kidding.
I'm gonna just tell you what I actually do. I think there's a response that they're looking for in here, but I will tell you being Latino is a superpower, right? Like, and I say that very intentionally. Being a person of color is a superpower. Being first gen is a superpower. Being low income, I grew up in foster care, all those things. And I tell my kids that I work with that it's a superpower, right? What it means is, I grew up in an environment that was so different than the environment that exists at UNC, right? Especially being a predominantly white institution. But I learned very quickly during my time at UNC how beautiful it was to come from the background that I did, right? And I think being a young professional of color was something that as a student of color at UNC, I had to learn what my powers were, right? Like the world was waiting for a superhero, but I had to learn that I have invisibility or what that was, right? And so I know for a fact that during my time at UNC that I was able to assess my own upbringing, my own cultural experiences, my own identities, and especially understanding people that were different than me. And that manifested in a superpower, right? I've said for a long time to my brown and black students that our brown and black students, being a brown and black person in this world means that you understand humility and empathy and adaptability and perseverance and honesty in a much different way than white students experience. And I think that was something that was really powerful for me. And I've used that in the world because my job is in youth Latino development, right? I work with young Latino political leaders. I work with young people who are interested in community development, community activism. And UNC offered me the space to be able to practice those things before I had to teach people how to do them, right? I teach kids how to be powerful in and of themselves. I had to learn that power for myself. And so going to UNC was a really, really important thing for me. And it taught me how to navigate the world and how to teach others how to navigate the world among a world that, let's be honest, right, like is systemically, intentionally built, against people of color, against communities of color in such a real way. Very
impactful. What about you, Steph?
That was a powerful answer, and I am sad that I have to go next. You're
powerful too, Steph.
Thank you. That was really beautiful, Tim. So One thing I always say is, I knew I wanted to go away for college, and Colorado was the furthest east I applied to, which is silly because it's not that far. But it took me going away and leaving Hawaii to realize what I had and what to be thankful for back home. And I'm going to relate this more to, I guess, what or how I took what I learned and what I did with it. So after I did my master's in public health, I returned home to Oahu and was working in Kalihi. And I grew up in Kalihi. I say I grew up the hill where the community health center is that I ended up working at. Um, when I was looking for employment, I'd never heard of this community health center. I wasn't even sure if it was legit or not. So I reached out to some family and friends and found out the amazing work that was being done at this health center. So it was a real honor to take the skills that I learned and appreciation that I now had for my home and come home and get to work in the community that I grew up in. Bringing it back to being a person of color and being one of the only ones within our department that had been born and raised in Hawaii that was now working in this community, I think really worked to my advantage. I think when you're working in community, whether that's healthcare or teaching or whatever, I think people relate to you when you look like them, when you sound like them, when you have an idea of where they've come from. And so that's kind of something that has really helped me in my public health career, is just returning home and working in the community that helped raise me.
Very powerful. Good job. Kevion, what do you got?
Yeah, I think two skills that come to mind are people skills and then adaptability. I think, just in my own experience, just even moving from, so I was born and raised in Paris, Texas. Yeah, we got an Eiffel Tower with a cowboy hat on it and everything, but it was a small town. So even like moving to Greeley, going to UNC, that was just such a big, like, eye-opening thing for me that like I wasn't fully prepared for, and just learning how to adapt to moving to Colorado, and then after college moving to Minnesota, and just job changes. There's so many different things that we it just learning how to adapt to the changes in your circumstances and these different things is a really effective key or effective skill in the workplace. And especially in today's world, I feel like we have so many resources right in front of us in terms of you can go to YouTube and learn how to do about anything these days, or go to Google. And especially at UNC, I had the resources of the Career Center and the Alumni Center and all these different resources that were made available to me, and still are to this day. And I think that adaptability is really it's just a good skill to have. And then too, I would just focusing on like people skills. I think being able to listen to others, their needs, their desires, and just the things that they need in the workplace. That's a really effective skill to have, to just be able to listen to people, and to really put just to be a servant leader, and to listen to them, and that will serve you well, especially in your networks and the connections that you make, long after you leave a job or a certain workplace. People remember people who have good people skills.
How about you, Elise?
All right, good answers, everyone. I enjoyed that. And also for me, I believe I have research. I got this. Okay, skills would be research and athleticism. So athleticism, I would say in like the literal stance of being like competitive in sports. And so that transfers into like business as well, because I know how to be the captain of a team. Like I was in intramurals and we were champions. Yes. So I know what it takes to like be a leader and then also be a teammate as well. You have to be able to adapt, like he was saying, to different situations, and you have to be able to prioritize. And then research as well. So I've done more of qualitative research. So I have done things like informational interviews and different things with ethnographies. So in that, I've been able to learn like how are they successful in what they do? So I've been able to learn from people by their stories and like different degrees that they've had. So I would say athleticism and research skills.
For me, it kind of goes back to Tim a little bit, and about knowing who you are. But before I can say that, for me, I have to say, because I have a huge family, that's not knowing who you are. Anybody can do that, but entitled in the sense of, for me, the goal was I'm realizing how privileged I am to have an education, and that education provides me to look for a job for a fit, where my brothers and sisters literally do not have that option. And so, one, recognize that's a privilege I have, and appreciating that privilege, and extending that to help lifting up other people. So, but on my journey, learning about who I am, it's the skill that really served me the best was really knowing who I was, because then I could not be pushed around and let be the whim of another employer, versus saying, this is who I am, and looking for an employer that fits with me. And if I don't have who I am, then I am just, I'm following somebody else. I'm wagging the tail for somebody else. And so I feel like knowing who I am and allows me to look for the best fit for a job, and really making sure I look at that. So how about you, Flo?
For me, is actually mentors. So it's not skills, but the people that were in my journey, and keeping those mentors throughout my life. So not because I ended one phase means that I don't get to talk to them or keep in connections. Like in high school, my CLD teacher was the reason why the Latinos went to college. I went to a very small school, so there was only 4 Latinos, and all 4 of us went to college because of her. And so when I think of her, I think that I want to be that teacher for my students. I want to be the teacher that is there for them, to guide them and to get them there. In college, I had Trish and Eva from the Cesar Chavez Center, who showed me dedication to the students and what it takes to be a dedicated person for your students. And then also Doctora Falcon, who showed me what it does for students when you teach with a passion, when you have a passion for the subjects, and what it does to the students. And then when I started working, my building mentor, how she was constantly there for me, no matter how many questions I had, she always had an answer, and she always was there for me. And so now I get to be that person for new teachers. And so I just feel that keeping those mentors in your life helps you throughout. And like 2 weeks ago, I reached out to Doctora Falcon still, and I was like, hey, I'm teaching a Mexican American class. What do you think of this and this? And she answered right away. And so keeping those people that were with you through your journey still in your professional life will help a lot, because those networks that you build will help you always.
Excellent. Moving on to, and Kevin, I'm going to go to you first now. As offices and organizations continue to share inclusive statements, how do you discern an office culture at an organization you're interested in applying to?
Yeah, I think a good first step is probably, just researching their website, or, whatever kind of resources they have provided, looking at things like that organization's mission statement, their vision, like, are they being sincere in the words that they're saying? Are you able to tell if they're putting, pen to paper, and just really, just dig around on that organization and see, are they doing what they're setting out to do in their mission? And, you won't be able to tell with every organization through their website, obviously, but, I think another way too is, just remember that when you're discerning a job, that, it's as much of a decision for you as it is for them. So don't hesitate to reach out to that organization and, inquire about maybe a role or the company itself. You don't want to put your potential candidacy in an awkward situation, but you can inquire with a lot of organizations, just general questions to see if it could be a fit for you. So that's what I would say.
Awesome. What about you, Tim?
Yeah, I think there's a couple different distinctions that need to be made for anybody of color, entering into a workplace that they hope that is inclusive. One is that diversity and inclusion are not the same thing. Diversity is cosmetic, is statistical, right? But inclusion means an adapting and changing of a space for the centering of diverse identities, right? And that's important, because bringing diverse people into an unchanged, oppressive workplace is still oppression. And I think that means that we have to be honest, right? That even though we may see brown and black people, BIPOC people, women, trans folk on, in company websites or in pushing or variety of different things, assessing inclusivity in a company means asking authentic and true questions, right? Asking, what is the retention of a teacher of color at this school, right? That was when I applied to North High School, that was a question I asked, right? When I was working and looking for, an opportunity to be able to work for the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute, I asked very clear questions of, what are your thoughts on dismantling GPA thresholds for our programs, right? For high school students. I asked, very clear questions for the inclusion that I believe in, because and not to affirm or tell this employer what I needed, right? Or excuse me, what they needed to do, but to express the work that I need to be able to do the best work that I can, right? I am dedicated in every way, shape, form, and fashion to disrupting any system, right? Or experience that is hurtful to, to my kids. And that means, being clear when I'm looking at a workplace of, do I want to take part in this work? That means looking at the impacts of the work. Is it actually inclusive work that's transformational, or is it work that seeks an equity in an inequitable system, right? And I think that those are important components to tie into that when you're looking at a workplace, because everybody, like whether you want to or not, right? All of us are representing our workplaces right now, all of us, right? And that means that the work and the things that we say and the work that we do on behalf of our organization is either aiding in some type of inclusion, or is disrupting any type of inclusion, and likewise for systems of oppression as well. So that's the way I kind of assess it, is being clear with my questions, being clear with the work that I think I can do, and third is assessing the work for the actual inclusive outcomes.
Awesome. Thank you, Tim. Steph,
Yeah,
what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I wanted to echo what Kevion said too. I think beyond the inclusivity statement, it's important for me to look at their mission and their vision statements as well. And then for me, specifically working in public health and community health, there are a lot of partnerships. So if you're looking into an organization, who are their partners? Who is within their network? Are those partners or organizations, do they follow what you believe in? And then also flipping around, like, are they good partners for the organization that you're going to work with too? So I think that's all I wanted to say, is just looking into their network and their partnerships, and again, making sure that they are following through with what they say in their mission and their vision.
Awesome. I also think it's a safe place to be challenged, for everybody. Because if it's not a safe place to be challenged, how can we learn? Nobody knows everything, and we're all stepping in it. And if we can't be in a place where we can be called on it and step in it in a place that's comfortable for all to do that, comfortable and uncomfortable at the same time, then that's not a place for me. So that's awesome. So Elise, we're gonna go to you next. Talk to me about as a person of color, how have you leveraged a network in the support of your career?
All right, so networking 101, I love that stuff. So with me, it all started at UNC. So when I was a diversity mentor, I was mentored by Larissa Romero Perry, and she's been awesome throughout this whole time, even to this day when I have this job. And so she was a great mentor for me. And then I also go to other community events, and like the Higher Education Diversity Summit, that's a great one. And I'm also part of Urban League Young Professionals. So the different networking groups that I'm a part of, every time you have the opportunity to do a networking, even if it's for if you can make 15 minutes, just make an appearance and introduce yourself. And then that will help you create kind of like your personal branding. And by being authentic, you can create, memories about oh, that's the lady who plays volleyball. So I think creating those connections with networking is helpful in a professional setting. And then you can also do more personal growth too, like meetup.com. They have a lot of different community type of events you can be part of. So networking and having fun and being authentic.
That's awesome. I agree too. That meetup has a lot of great individualized niches that you can be like, all right, that people have the same there's only 15 of them in all Denver, but it's the same 15 that you like, and then that's awesome. And you can, Black Nerds, there was a group, and it's just whatever you like, you can probably find a group there. And if you can't find a group, make a group. Take a risk and get out there and do that. But you have to leverage your networks. Somebody told me, when I started out in my, the job, that who is your capital, and how a relationship you build with them is your capital. And through life is, it's what you reap, the relationships you built and grow. And so it doesn't matter what you go from, from one field to another field and change jobs. People change careers now, 15, 20 times in their life. But the people who you have built strong relationships with will follow you and support you because of the networking you've done and the relationships you built. So I think it's important to really know that the network you build and in giving to others is going to be, fulfilling the rest of your career. It will not go away. Everything overlays. It really does. You'll find ways to, I do stocks, and I had a friend that does sustainability now, and I have a great relationship with her. And so we're talking about sustainability, how to do stuff better with stocks because of the relationship I have with her. You wouldn't think sustainability and finance are going to work together. No, it does. Good relationship, good people can have good questions and work with each other and build networks. And all of a sudden, she introduced me to her friends, I introduced to my friends. We work together and make it better. So
how about you? Sorry, what you're talking about is lift as we climb, right? Like that's the biggest part. So I just think that's
absolutely. Yes. If only you are succeeding, in my opinion, you're not succeeding.
So again, I started out at the university. I was involved in a lot of things throughout my years at the university. So I got to build a network there, but to me, it's only the foundation. Now that I'm a teacher, I feel like teachers have the opportunity to make their network really big. Because now with student teachers, I always take my student teachers, always. If you want a student teach with me, go ahead, come. And just because that will give me the opportunity as well to reach out later on to them and see what they're doing and how things are working, what are the new innovations. So you get to, even though they're here to learn from you, then you later on can learn from them. And also with my students, my network with the students here is huge because those students go on to college and they get to become professionals. And so later when I need help with something in, business, I can reach out to one of my students. And so I'm constantly trying to recruit students to be teachers, but it's not working too much. They don't want to be teachers, but at least they're learning Spanish and they're getting minors in Spanish and becoming other professionals that I can reach out to them later on.
Awesome. And two more things on that I made a note about. I've always learned to give value first. So how can you help other people network together? So how do you connect this person, that person? Always give value before you are, and also to make sure you're networking when you don't need something. If you're only networking, I got to get a new job, I hate where I'm at, and I start networking then, you can do it and it's important to do it, but it's way more impactful if I call up Tim, I don't know who he is, and I'm like, hey Tim, I just talked to him, I wanted to see you, and build a relationship with them. And then later on in life and things happen and he goes, hey, I heard there's a job up here in Greeley by X, Y, and Z. And that's awesome. Versus the first time I call Tim is, when I need a job, it's going to be a lot tougher. It is tougher. It's awkward. So build your network. Always build your network. That is your foundation, your people. That's your extended family in the world. So how have you incorporated your culture or background to better your company or organization or the people who work there? Sorry, my dogs are stressing me out.
My job is pretty much expressing my culture and my background. But a specific aspect, right now, we're working on our equity team. Equity committee, and I'm part of that. And so I'm constantly making sure that our students are represented, the Latino students, our students of color are represented, and that they actually get to hear the truth about what is happening in our school and not the sugar-coated stuff that they always go to. So this is something really hard for me, but I'm really speaking out for our students and trying to make sure that their voices are heard. But like I said, my job, I'm a Spanish teacher, so my culture is always represented. But not just that, I'm one of the 4 Latinos in our building, and we're 76% Latino in my high school. And so kids have never met know who I am. They know I'm the crazy teacher that has a chancla in her podium. They know that I am, the one that was born in Chihuahua, Mexico, and has that really strong accent with the shoe every time she speaks in Spanish. And they know me, and I don't know who they are, but they just know me because I'm the only Latina teacher that they have in the building. And there's 2 more Latina teachers, but like, I don't know. I guess I'm just the crazy one that they know. And I feel like because they know who I am, what my background is, what my culture is, they feel more confident with me and comfortable to talk to me and be around me.
Awesome. Kevin, how about you incorporating your culture and background? Now it's quieter in my house. Thank you.
Yeah, for me, I think it's just trying to remind myself to not forget the lens that I look out of. I think when you represent an employer, it can be so easy to just, think from the lens of your employer, like, how do they feel about this issue? What should I be doing to better the company? And thinking about it from that aspect. And especially like, here in Minnesota, just working at the Capitol, I work on education issues and, both internally at my organization and externally, with all of the stakeholders at the Capitol. It's a lot of people who don't look like me who are making the policies. And I know Tim can attest to that with the advocacy work he does too. That, it's so easy to forget to look out of your own lens. And, so I try to remind myself that, at my organization, I know where they stand on the issues, but just trying to think about, okay, as a Black man, who grew up in a small town and experienced inequities, how can I provide insight to my team and to, those playmakers at the Capitol to, remind them that, even though this perspective may not be natural to you, this is a perspective of, people of color. This is a perspective of, minorities and people who, aren't always represented on these issues. So that's something that I would encourage people to do, is just to, not forget the lens that you look out of.
What about you, Steph?
Yeah, I wanted to thank Flor for bringing up equity and inclusion, and it made me reframe, I think, how I was going to answer this question. So part of my work with the Public Health Institute is working with community health workers. And part of Hawaiian culture is, everyone is welcome to our table. So one thing that I've learned is so poi, right, is a staple food of the Hawaiian diet. And I had learned that you can make it really thick, but if more people show up for dinner, you add water, you thin it, you're going to feed more people. And so I think using that cultural lens and working with the community health workers here is, we're growing an association that currently doesn't exist in our state. And everyone is welcome to the table, whether that be at the federal, state, county level, and anyone can come. We are all working toward that same goal of bettering our community. And so making sure that you're inclusive and including anybody who is interested in that work, who aligns with the vision and the mission of that task at hand.
Awesome. Tim?
Yeah, I have a lot to say about this, but I'll boil it down. I have worked in the United States Capitol. I was an intern with Senator Schumer this time last year, so during the first impeachment trial, right? Which means I have seen it literally in the highest forms of governance, in the highest system that creates of all other systems in our country, the pervasiveness of whiteness. And I think that is so present. Flor knows as a teacher, Kevian knows as a lobbyist, right? How prevalent those things are. And I think the best way that I incorporate my culture and my background into my company and my organization to better the people who work there and the work that we do is I am unapologetically myself, right? Shirley Chisholm, the first Black woman to run for president, said, if you don't have a seat at the table, bring a folding chair, right? I have carried so many folding chairs, and it's not just one for me, because I'm bringing a folding chair for him and for her and for them and theirs, right? I am bringing it for everybody, right? Because it's no longer a conversation of, are we going to are we on the table? Are we at the table, right? I'm no longer asking to be at the table, because if I'm not welcome at the table, I went to college. I know how to build a table, right? I know how to connect people. And I think what's important in understanding our unique social privileges that we have by going to UNC, by having a college degree, if we now have the opportunity to take who we are and transform that for the people from where we're from, right? I am authentic. I have my neighborhood tattooed on me, right? Like to the point that like when I'm teaching my kids see that, right? That I'm not just bringing a folding chair for me, I'm bringing 180 folding chairs for every kid that I teach, right? Like that's what we have to be dedicated to. And that makes my work better because I know that my work, regardless of whether it is business oriented, it is advocacy oriented, like community organizing, whatever it is, my work is better when more people are aware of it. My work is better when more people can access it. And my work is better when more people can take part in it, right? And that's why, like, I 100%, and that's rooted 100% in the way that I was culturally brought up. I was raised in foster care, right? I was raised by everybody and by a community. I lived with teachers and faith leaders and coaches, right? By the time I graduated high school, I'd been to 9 schools, which taught me and told me that everything that we have, everybody talks this big talk about liberation. Liberation will never be granted to people, right? Liberation is in what we would give to each other, right? If I can give somebody a seat in the tables that I'm at, that's liberation for them. If I can bring a chair and speak my piece in the way that I need to unapologetically and show that that's a possibility, no matter how long I've been in the building, right? That's a strength for the people that I'm working with, right? Because if nothing else, then they can't say they weren't exposed to it, right? Because I intentionally disrupted, right? And I brought my little folding chair and I disrupted so that everybody is aware of that, because I think that's the communities that we come from. When we look at systemically marginalized communities, all we've had was in history was storytelling. All we've had was community. All we had was each other, which means that those things are powerful. We have survived and persisted off of having no resources or access to the systems that we are now accessing, and we have still survived and persisted, right? Which means now, I have to carry that with me authentically, because I know that there is power in that. And I know that the systems that I have access to, whether it be politics, whether it be a school system, don't understand the power in there. You see what I'm saying? So that's kind of how I incorporate myself. That's how I, bring it to my workplace.
Elise.
Well done. Thank you. I was snapping away. I was like, all right, Tim. Okay. Yes. Okay. So for me, I would say that I bring my personal perspective. I work with young adults in Douglas County, which is wonderful. I love young adults because they understand me. They're like, oh, she's cool. Like, yeah. So I think just being authentic and being like having fun with your work is what people can vibe off of. And that's what they remember. And that's how people are successful, because they feel that someone cares about them, someone that looks like them or has had a similar experience is like, oh, I've done it. Like they've done it. So can I, or like I feel like they think of me as a mentor, which I really appreciate because I've had mentors myself. And so that's what I would say for that. And also too, a lot of community partnerships that I do with other organizations. A lot of them are very like multicultural. So like Cervecias de la Raza and Juntos and other organizations, and Douglas County School District with like the cultural liaisons. I'm able to bring the undergraduate perspective of training, like Safe Zone training or Dreamer training. And so I bring that like sociological lens and personal experience, and then I'm able to share what best practices I've gained and learn some so that I can impact my caseload and just my community in general. So it's about like active listening skills. How have people been successful? How can I share that with the world and show up to be successful?
Awesome. Everything you guys said, I agree with. I seek out, connect, help, lift up, and make sure we take care of each other. So kind of in the final wrap up here, guys, everyone, can you provide a final word of advice for UNC Bears looking to enter the industry? We'll start with you, Steph.
Yeah, I think, so first thing I'll say is I obviously did not go into what I got my degree in at UNC, and that's okay, because the experiences that I had in my coursework and internships led me to where I am. So my advice is, if you're not sure what you want to go into, really take advantage of all of the programs that are on campus. Talk to your professors, talk to your advisors, go to your career counselors, Contact your mentors, whether that's from your high school or extracurricular activities. Just reach out to people, ask them questions. If you think you have interest in a few different areas, do an internship, maybe during the summer if you don't have time during the school year. Career shadowing too, maybe just one day career shadowing, somebody will change your life or maybe say, okay, maybe that's not what I want to go into. Just having that exposure to different areas, I think, is really important. And then lastly, just put yourself out there, and it's okay to be uncomfortable and join the different organizations or cultural groups on campus, and just, really expand, I think, your vision of what's out there. And eventually you'll come across something that you're passionate about, and all the experiences along the way will help you get there.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Tim.
Yeah, I have two very specific things. One, my final word of advice in entering into any industry, right, is be 100% authentically who you are. Nobody knows your community better. Nobody knows the experiences that you have better. Nobody knows the work that you can do better than you. Trust that, right? I'm the youngest person in both of the workplaces that I work with, right? An entire 106 person staff on a school and a multi-million-dollar nonprofit. I'm the youngest person. I'm only 23 years old, right? I'm probably the youngest person on this panel, right? But what that means is speak authentically your experiences. It does not mean you hold less truth. It does not mean that you hold less important things to say. It does not mean that you don't have great questions to ask and challenges to the systems and the ways that industries work. It means that you have an opportunity to make them better, right? That means that you have an opportunity to make them better for people who will come after you, right? Like, I think that that's the important thing, that nobody else can take that away from you. And in the instance that somebody is uncomfortable or anything like that, all of that can be restoratively handled, right? All of that is things that we can work towards and build with each other. But if you are leading with who you are and you are leading authentically with who that is, then that's a power nobody else can take away from you, right? That you can work any job as long as you are proud of what you're doing. My dad is a parts delivery driver. He's been a parts delivery driver 7 days a week since I was a kid. He wakes up at 6 a.m. every day, works 13-hour days for minimum wage, lives in income housing in Section 8, and he loves what he does because he is proud of it. And he is proud of it because of who he is, right? And that means that I have a power to be able to do that as well.
Excellent. Excellent. Elise.
All right, cool. So I would say do informational interviews. If you think of it, there's this thing, ROI, return on investment. If you have like a 20-minute conversation over like Zoom with like tea or coffee, and you just talk to someone who's been successful in the career as a leader, you just ask them like, how did you come to this? And then they can give you some insider tips, and always ask like, can you introduce me to someone else? The key to this, however, when networking, always say that you're willing to help them as well. Even if you can't think of something to offer to them, be like gracious with your time and just, talk about being grateful. And so I'd say informational interview, because if you spend 20 minutes, that you get at least $20,000 more, per year, because you're getting a job because of someone So see, it's all about the money. No, it's not about the money, but anyways. And then also I wanted to show my UNC pride, my UNC flag. So yes, thank you.
Awesome. Kevion.
I'm over here taking notes because I'm learning so much from this group, but I just, I think what I'll say has already been touched on by Elise and touched on by UQ, just around the power of, building your network. I would say don't take that for granted, especially, where you are right now. You probably, if you're a student, it's the best place to be to build your network. And if you're alumni, it's still a great place to be to build your network. I can just think about just how like that has helped me so many times, I don't want to speak for this group, but I'm going to do it anyways. I think our contact information is being shared. Please take advantage of this group.
Absolutely.
Especially, take advantage of us because, I would love nothing more than to connect with my fellow alumni and fellow Bears who are students now. And, it was people like Cato Cruz and Tobias Guzman who really paved the way for me and were willing to sit down and get a coffee or, take me out to lunch to just connect. And, I want to do that as well. And, I think we all do. So please take advantage of just network building. And, I like to think about it like this, the worst you can get about reaching out to somebody you don't know is, a no or no reply. So what do you really have to lose? So
I agree. Flor.
Alrighty. So I'm not gonna lie, teaching is extremely hard, but trust the process. We could never imagine that we were going to be teaching in a pandemic and we had to switch from online to in person and back to online to in person and all this craziness that is happening right now. But at the end of the day, the experiences that you get with your students, the success that your students obtain, that's what matters. And that's what keeps teachers going. So always trust the process. Don't give up on your student teaching. Don't give up your first year. Give it a try. Keep going. Because I guarantee you that it would be worth it at the end. And we need more teachers of color. So if you are doing education and you're a person of color, please stick to it. It's going to be worth it. And our students value us so much more just because we know what it's like. We know the process, we know the journey. So please stick to your education.
Excellent. Well, I have nothing else specific. Everything you guys said, I agree with. Find your passion, make your network, be curious, be bold. One thing I would say is your network, it's not a flat, it's a life. It's growing and it's changing. Its parts fall off that you don't need anymore or doesn't fit with you anymore. As you grow and evolve, make sure your network continues to grow and evolve and keep feeding that network, because that is your impact. And that impact has, tertiary, impacts out in the world. And you want to make sure you do those things. So that is it. I'll put in the notes, some networking links that I have from LinkedIn. There's some really good networking stuff. And then also some questions to ask an employer in a little bit more linear fashion, and how to challenge them at different levels, from the HR to the intro, from the beginning of your process of, meeting with the company to you're actually on the day interviewing, how to be more poignant and watch body language and that kind of stuff. So I'll put that in the notes so we can actually have other ways to continue to push and make changes. So thank you guys all. Norma.
Thank you. You all were amazing. Thank you so much for your time, for your insight, and for being here today. I literally had goosebumps the entire time since the event started. Thank you so much. I look forward to keeping in touch with you all and seeing everybody who joined us in our future or upcoming alumni career panels this spring. Everyone, thank you so much. Have a great evening and go Bears.